Hello everybody, so thank you for watching my video today. Thank you for clicking on my video. So in today's video we're going to be looking at what sort of work experience placements are ideal or are recommended for studying medicine. So we'll make a start. So a little bit about me. I've made quite a few videos now on YouTube, so if you have a look at my YouTube channel, you can have a look at some of the videos that I have made, such as how I got into medicine, so my journey and my story about how I successfully got into medicine, and I'm currently now a fourth year medical student. I've also made another video on how to write a successful personal statement for medicine, another video on how to score highly in the UK CAT, how to be successful at a medical school interview, and also how to be successful in the pre-clinical years at medical school, so that's years 1 and 2. So if you enjoy the video that I've made today, if you've enjoyed the previous videos that I've made, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and also share my video amongst your friends and anyone else that's interested in applying for medicine. And also please comment below about things that you found quite interesting in the video, things that you'd like me to clarify in future videos. Okay, so let's make a start. So the way that I'm going to approach this video is that I'm going to firstly tell you about the traditional work experience placements that are performed by medical students, also placements where you're working with children and young people, placements involving elderly patients, and placements with medical charities, and finally I'll give you some tips about how to write about the placements that you've undertaken for your personal statement. Now, one thing that wasn't necessarily clear to me when I initially applied to medicine is that when you're working as a doctor, you'll be working with the general public. So this could be anyone of any ethnicity, gender, age, and I think it's really important that when you are planning for your work experience and when you're undertaking your placements, that you're really showing the medical school that you're applying to that you can not only communicate with people of a varying age, but also that you can adjust your communication styles and tailor that to the audience that you're speaking to. For instance, if you're communicating with a younger child, the way that you would talk to the child and the way that you would approach that conversation would be very different to if you were talking to your grandmother who's of an older age. And I think that's something that's important, and then you need to reflect in your personal statement about how you can tailor your communication skills. So that's why I think it's really important that you undertake a wide range of work experience placements, and hopefully that will not only develop your communication skills, it will also show the medical school just how interested and how passionate you are in terms of applying to medicine. Okay, so the traditional work experience placements performed by medical students include a hospital placement. So this might be volunteering at a particular ward, or you might have the opportunity to shadow a doctor. And the best way of trying to apply for a placement like that would be to look at a local hospital's website and look at the volunteering section or the work experience section and applying that way. Also a GP placement. So a GP placement could either involve you shadowing a GP, or it might involve you performing some sort of admin work at the GP practice. So if you get the opportunity to volunteer as some sort of admin assistant at the GP practice, I would recommend that you take that opportunity with both hands, because it will give you an idea of how the GP practice is run in terms of the admin procedure. And also, as you develop a rapport with the GP practice that you're working at, eventually, many weeks later down the line, you might get an opportunity to shadow the GP. So that's another way of trying to hopefully get some work experience for you. And finally, working or volunteering as a carer in a nursing home is something that I would highly recommend, because it also helps you to, like I said, develop your communication skills. You're working with a different age range than you normally would do, but also it helps you to develop those caring skills and demonstrate how you have able to do that. For instance, you might be assisting elderly residents with their meals, and that's something that you can mention in your personal statement, and you can reflect upon what sort of skills that you've developed as a result of that. You might be involved in helping to transfer an elderly resident from the armchair that they're sitting in to the bed, or from the armchair to a standing up position. And again, that will probably involve more than one individual, so it might involve the carer, it might involve yourself, sometimes it can involve more than 2 people, and it'll also involve the resident themselves, because there'll be quite a lot of communication involved in that process. But also you've got to factor the resident's own physical health needs. So potentially they might have a form of arthritis, so that might make the process a little bit more difficult. Perhaps they might have dementia, so again, communication will be quite key there. So it's really important that whatever experience that you've had at your work experience placements, it's really, really important to reflect upon that and think about what you've gained, what sort of skills you've demonstrated, what sort of experience have you gained, and how can that help to make your personal statement far stronger and more competitive. And this will be something that I will mention at the end of the video, and also this is something that I've discussed in immense detail in my previous video about writing personal statements. Okay, so next one. It's placements involving children and young people, because you want to show that you can communicate with young children. And this is important because, like I said, you might be working in A&E, you might be working in GP practice, you don't really know who's going to walk through the door, and it's really important that you're able to adapt your communication skills in order to tailor it to the audience that you're talking to. So you might be able to volunteer at a nursery, and when you're working at a nursery, it's important that you learn the best way of engaging with children and how to communicate with children of different ages, because you might have some toddlers, you might have preschool children, you might have some very, very young babies. So it's really important that when you go to the nursery, you learn how to communicate with children of different ages, and also appreciate just how individual each child is, and the way that you approach each child and talk to each child is very different. And hopefully that will be something that you'll be able to reflect upon in your personal statement. You can also lead a school club. So some of my friends, they led a local dance club at their secondary school. When I was at secondary school, I led a netball club. It wasn't a particularly amazing club, but it helped me to develop my leadership skills, helped me to develop my organisational skills. So again, these are some themes and traits that you can discuss in your personal statement. And also you can work with charities that are dedicated to working with children. For instance, Beanstalk is a charity that I worked with. So this is where you visit a primary school once a week, and you help children to improve their reading. And whilst that might not necessarily seem as a medical placement, again, you're working with the public, you're working with children, you're developing communication skills, and this is all something that will look really, really good in your personal statement. And another charity that I worked with is Resources for Autism. So this is a charity which offers a befriending service to autistic children. Now, autism is very, very common, and when you hopefully begin medical school, you will have a paediatrics placement, and in paediatrics placement it will be stressed to you just how common autism is. So if you can show that you have experience in communicating with children who suffer from autism, then that will put you in good stead for the future, and also it will demonstrate to the medical school just how interested you are in medicine, because you're communicating and you've got experience of working with children with various needs. Because autism runs on a spectrum. Some children will be mildly affected, other children will be more affected. So again, it's about discussing about how you've developed your communication skills and how you've tailored that to meet the needs of the individual that you're talking to. Okay. So the next placement involves working with elderly people, because in the UK we have a growing elderly population. We are living longer. We are living longer with also more complex healthcare needs. So particularly if you end up working as a GP, you will find that you will have more elderly patients that are visiting you as a result. And similarly, when you're working in A&E as a junior doctor, or if you're working as any sort of hospital physician, you will find that as a consequence of our aging population, you will find that you will have more elderly patients that visit you. So it's really important that when you're planning your work experience placements, that you have demonstrated that you've taken this into consideration and you've taken time out to undertake some work experience placements where you've demonstrated that you've been caring for the elderly. Now, I know I've alluded to this previously, but I can't stress just how important having a work experience at a care home really is. It helps you to demonstrate your caring skills, helps you to develop your empathy skills. A lot of the residents at elderly homes will be suffering from mental health conditions, so it could be something such as dementia, it could be something such as depression. Some might even suffer from the more complex mental health needs like bipolar, schizophrenia. It's so important to have a placement at a nursing home, and I can't honestly stress that enough to you. Another placement that you could consider is working or volunteering at a hospice. So an example of a hospice is Marie Curie, and the reason why I've chosen to stress that is that the fact that we have an Asian population. So increasingly in the future, more people will have the ability to choose how they want to spend their last few days, and one of the ways that they may decide to spend their last few days is by choosing to reside in a hospice. So it's important not only for your own understanding of what sort of services are available at a hospice, but also to develop an awareness of some of the issues surrounding this. So I think that whilst this might be a very difficult placement for some people, and I do appreciate that, you've got to remember that you're applying to study medicine. In a few years' time, you will be the doctor involved in rearranging hospice care for patients. So it's important that you have an awareness of this service, and also this is something that will look quite interesting on your personal statement for interview. And it also links in quite nicely with the other alternatives to choosing the way that you die. It might even open up potentially at a medical school interview, it might even open up a discussion about euthanasia and discussing the medico-legal ethical situation around that. So it's important for your own awareness, I would say. And another placement that you might consider is a placement with Age UK. So they offer a befriending service. So again, that's helping to discuss some of the more mental health concerns that affect the elderly in particular. And again, it's an opportunity for you to develop your listening skills, for you to demonstrate your empathy skills. And again, these are all sort of key themes and key traits that you can really reflect upon in your personal statement. Okay? And finally, I've got placements with other medical charities, because it's really important to demonstrate that you've got that broad range of experience, you have this life experience, and this will be not only beneficial in terms of making your personal statement more richer and making that discussion at interview stage more in depth and more detailed, but it will also help you later on when you're practicing medicine as a junior doctor, because you can really reflect upon the experiences that you've had and really draw upon the skills that you've developed. So some medical charities that I would recommend involves St John's Ambulance and the British Red Cross. So with these two charities, you can train up as a first aider if you go through their voluntary pathway. So if you volunteer with St John's or British Red Cross, you can volunteer and they will train you up as a first aider. And this will be really good in terms of helping you develop basic first aid skills, giving you a little bit of clinical exposure, and that will put you in good stead for applying for medicine. And it also gives you something interesting to write about in your personal statement, because it's demonstrating how you're actively caring for members of the public. Another charity I would recommend is RNIB. So this is a charity which supports young children who are suffering from visual impairment, and this again is just showing your broad range, that you've worked with different charities and you can really draw upon all the skills and experiences that you've had and reflect upon that in your personal statement. And another charity that I've popped here is NACRO. So this is a charity which focuses upon alcohol and substance misuse. Now, unfortunately, there's a great deal of stigma surrounding alcohol and substance misuse services, but in the future you'll be working as a doctor, and a lot of people, unfortunately, in this country and worldwide suffer from addiction problems. And I think if you have a placement where you're working with people suffering from substance and misuse, then it demonstrates not only your own awareness of this issue, but it will really give you some very interesting experiences to reflect upon in your personal statement, make your interview discussion far more interesting than the next applicant who's coming in after you. And also when you're applying for your F1 positions later on in life, or your GP positions later on in life, or whatever medical training specialty that you're applying for, having experience of working with people suffering from addiction will definitely be something that you will draw upon and use in your future practice. Okay, so now we're going to focus upon how to really refine your personal statement and incorporate all of the experiences that you've undertaken and really help to sell yourself so you can get that medical school interview. Okay, so I've alluded to it previously, but I have a video focusing upon writing the personal statement for medicine, and in that video I've focused upon each component of the personal statement, from writing an introduction to writing about the work experience placements itself, to writing about hobbies and interests and how to summarise and write a very good conclusion. So I would strongly recommend that you watch that video, but what I would like to briefly mention is that all of the placements that you've had, in order to write about it in your personal statement, you really need to reflect upon the experience itself. Think about what you've gained from the experience, how has that benefited you, how has that increased your passion, your interest for medicine? How has that helped to develop any skills which would be beneficial to you as potentially a future medical student and potentially as a future doctor? Now, what I would recommend is that you read Tomorrow's Doctors and also Good Medical Practice, and really think about how you can link your experiences with some of the themes that are discussed in these two documents. Now, these two documents, you can download it off Google as an online PDF, or you can go directly onto the GMC's website and you'll find Tomorrow's Doctors and Good Medical Practice there if you just type into the search bar. But I would strongly recommend that you link your own work experience placements to the themes that are discussed in these two documents in order to write more succinctly in your personal statement. And like I said, I've made a video focusing upon the personal statement, so I would recommend that you look at this in conjunction with that. Okay? So this is the key theme and message that I want to leave you with today. So success consists of going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. So I do appreciate that it's very, very difficult to get work experience placements, and it can be quite difficult reflecting upon the placements itself. However, you've just got to keep pushing forward and working to the best of your ability, and fingers crossed you will get that place, not only at interview but also a place at medical school, and achieve your dreams. So thank you for watching my video today. Please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and post in the comment section below. Thank you very much.